Welcome to our audio blog, where we dive deep into the world of technology and explore the power of DevTools. This audio blog is organized by Technophiles, the Computer Science Department Society of Bharati College, and I am your host, Aditri R. Today, we have someone incredible joining us. Let's give a warm welcome to Anurag Singh, also known as Pro Coder on Instagram. Welcome, Anurag sir.
Yeah, thank you, Aditri, for inviting me.
Mr. Anurag Singh is a self-taught professional with expertise in JavaScript, React.js, Express.js, MongoDB, and more. With substantial experience at Deals Plus, Digital Insurance, and EasyGrad, he excels in front-end and full-stack development. He crafts complex dashboards for managing files, documents, events, and deals, leveraging React.js, Next.js, Redux, and TypeScript. His proficiency extends to transforming Figma or XD designs into responsive interfaces and revamping websites with custom designed pages. An avid learner, he continually enhances his skills through platforms like Google, Udemy, and Free Code Camp, embodying a dedication to staying at the forefront of web development. Today, we are going to unleash the power of DevTools and explore how they revolutionize the world of web development. DevTools offers a plethora of features that streamline the development process. From inspecting and editing HTML and CSS in real time to analyzing network performance and conducting audits for accessibility and performance, DevTools empowers developers to create robust and user friendly web applications. So, sir, could you give us an introduction?
Yeah, thanks, Aditri, for introducing me. I will also introduce myself. So, my name is Anurag Singh, and I have been working as a front-end developer for last 3 years. I'm a self-taught developer, and I also have a YouTube channel where I teach front-end development. The YouTube channel has 37K subscribers, and also I've created a complete front-end course where anyone can learn if they don't know about front-end. So that course is in Hindi. So that is about me. And shall we start with the topic?
Sure, sir.
Okay.
So
Okay.
my first question for you would be, what are DevTools and how do they enhance the development process for programmers and web developers?
Okay, so like we use browsers to browse websites. So every browser have dev tools built into it. So dev tools means those there are some tools which are meant to be used for developers. But many times people start learning web development and don't use web tools while learning, and they try to learn. They try to think that this is something advanced thing we will learn later, but it is very important to learn web tools and develop websites using web tools. So this is a brief introduction. Like they help us to debug, like to see our code, how it is running, how the styles are being applied. So this is the brief introduction about DevTools.
So what is the role of browser like in web designing and debugging?
Okay, so from now here onwards, I will continue. And if you have any question or if you want to ask anything, you can ask. Okay, so whenever we develop a website runs on the browser. But when we are developing, we need to know how our code is being applied on the browser, how it is running on the browser. So, like our browsers have these built-in tools. This podcast, I will mainly focus on three kind of people. One kind of people who have never learned web development. They are trying to start into going front end development or web development. Another category for those who has already learned web development but don't know much about DevTools. They are able to make websites. They are able to make simple pages, but they don't know what are web tools, what are DevTools, and why do we use it, how to use it effectively. This second category of people. The third category of people, like those who are already using DevTools and who already know front end development, but I will give them some advanced tips, advanced suggestion, so that they can also benefit from this podcast. So starting with the first category, for fresher web developer, or for those students who are just starting to learn web development, I will suggest them to go through such course, find such course which teaches web development using DevTools. So if I suggest you some courses, so in English, if you want to learn like through English courses, there's a very good course on Udemy by Colt Steele. He focuses on DevTools, like while teaching any concept, he will focus on DevTools, like how the content is being rendered on the DevTools, how can we inspect it, how can we change the properties of website. So that is one very good course in English. And if you want to learn in Hindi, then you can follow my course on YouTube. If you search on YouTube that front end course Anurag Singh or something like this, or front end course Pro Coder, you will get that course. It is a very exhaustive course. Like I have covered everything, like front end, like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, Redux. So everything is covered in that course, and I have taught it using DevTools. Everything I have shown how it works. So, like the benefit of using DevTools is you don't need to remember something. You don't need to like keep revising everything because you can see everything. For example, let's say take an example of CSS. So there is something called position property in CSS, and but we don't know what is the default value of position property. So we can go to computer tabs inside our DevTools. There is a section of computer tab, and we can see what is the default value of position property. In the same way, we can see any default value or any computed value, like at the end which property is being applied. So this is one example. Another example is there is something called flexbox and grid in CSS. So these concepts are harder to understand, especially grid, because grid is something that by the name of grid, we feel like if we make some grid, it will look like a grid, like boxes, multiple boxes will come. But if you learn grid, it does not come. If we apply, it does not appear on the screen. But with the help of DevTools, let's say if you are learning CSS, so for CSS, Firefox DevTools are very good. And for JavaScript, Chrome DevTools are very good. So if you're learning CSS, then I would suggest you to use Firefox browser and use their DevTools. And if you use the DevTools, you can see the flexbox, how the flexbox is shrinking the element, by what percentage it is shrinking the element or growing the element. You'll get to know all these things. In the same way, you will get to know the grid lines. You will see that grid, if you will have to enable by default, it does not come. So if we enable in the DevTools that we want to see the grid, we can see all the parts of grid. So uh, this is the benefit. We don't need to cram anything. We don't need to memorize anything. We can see, when we see practically, we don't need to remember. And in the same way, if we are learning JavaScript, we need to use DevTools again. And for JavaScript, I would suggest you to use Chrome DevTools. So Chrome DevTools are very good for JavaScript. So in like learning any programming language, the crucial part, most important part is to understanding the flow of code, how the code is being executed line by line, which line is running first, which line is running after. Like even if the code is from top to bottom, but sometimes top lines can run first and bottom lines can run later. It depends on how the code is written. So understanding that how code is running line by line, that is very important. And if we use DevTools, we can pause the execution of code and we can run, we can see like step by step which line is running. So it will be very useful for learning. Like you don't need to remember, you don't need to remember global execution context. You don't need to remember global scope. You can see all the things. You can see in front of your eyes. When you see the global scope, local scope, and variable address, then you don't need to remember anything. Okay, so this is why if you are just starting to learn, so you should start with such course which focuses on DevTools. and like teaches the web development through DevTools. So this is for the first category of student who are just getting started. And Aditri, if you have any question, you can ask. Otherwise, I will move to the next category.
I have again no questions. Okay, I'll ask a one question. What it DevTools is indeed a game changer in the workflow. So how, what is the importance of it? Like, how important is it for learning CSS?
Yes, like you can learn CSS with such courses where DevTools is not uh, that much into focus. But what that will do, earlier if like later if you face any problem, you will not understand why that problem is coming. If you face any abnormal behaviors of css keeps behaving very weird, so you will not understand why it is behaving like this. So if you learn the DevTools upfront, like while learning css, if you learn to use DevTools, if you run into any such kind of problem, you'll be able to fix that problem quickly. You will know like which thing is causing that problem. So this is very important in debugging, we can say, or error fixing. Whenever any error comes, we can fix. If we know how to use DevTools, we can fix it very easily. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, sir. My
Okay.
next question would be, how do you, like, you are someone who is very deeply immersed in the world of web development. So how do you utilize DevTools to enhance your projects?
Yeah. So every time, like, development is not possible without DevTools. As you develop, you have to use DevTools. Otherwise, we cannot develop, like, let's say, if you want to develop a responsive website, then we'll have to keep open the DevTools in one side, and we need to keep checking that how it is coming, like how responsive it is. And if something is overflowing, we need to debug which element is causing that overflow. In the same way, we use debugging for JavaScript also. In JavaScript, like there are different tabs we can like for JavaScript we can explore different tabs, like console tab is there, and network tab is there, and there is one sources tab. So sources tab is very important for debugging. And now I will focus on those students who has already learned JavaScript and JavaScript or web development, but they have not explored the DevTools that much. So in DevTools, there are lots of tabs, lot of features. We don't need to know everything to get started. Like as you get senior, you will learn everything over the period of time. Right now, even I don't know all the tabs, but I will tell you like which all the tabs we should focus on. So the first tab is Elements tab. That is the most like basic tab, and by default, it is opened when we open DevTools. And using the Elements tab, we can inspect the HTML DOM elements. And below the Elements tab, there will be one Styles tab where we can see all the CSS styles. And the second tab is console tab. That is like console tab is very basic. Everyone, like even if they don't use DevTools, they will have to use console tab. So console tab, everyone knows. Like we see the output, we can run out like JavaScript code in the console. Another tab is like inside the Elements tab. Like there are multiple tabs, sub tabs. So uh, there is one tab called Computed tab. So like we can see CSS properties in Styles tab, we can see JavaScript properties, all the JavaScript properties of any element just by selecting it without doing any console log, without doing anything. So just going to Properties tab, we can see all the JavaScript properties of any DOM node or DOM element. And there is one Computer tab that I already discussed. We need to go to Computer tab to see the final property that is being applied. And there is also one Event Listeners tab inside the Elements tab itself. If we open in Elements tab, there will be one sub tabs category kind of thing. So In the event listeners tab, we can see which event listeners are added to the selected element. So if we select some element and there is some event listener attached to it, we can see that what are all the event listener attached to it. And also we can even remove that event listener just by clicking the remove button. There will be one remove button. And now console tab we have already discussed. Now the most important tab is sources tab. In the sources tab, you will get to know a lot about JavaScript. You will get to know call stack. You will get to know this thing, uh, scopes. You can see the scope. You will see the global scope, local scope. You can see closures. If you have learned JavaScript, you would have came across something called closures. So you can see closures, and you can see how the code is being executed by adding breakpoints. There are some buttons. By clicking those buttons, we can run the code line by line. So this sources tab is, I would say, very difficult for beginners. And if you are just getting started and want to learn more about the sources tab, I have already made one video. If you search on Google, on YouTube, master debugging and put my name or pro coder, you will get that. Or if there is any way, I would attach that video. Like if this video is put on YouTube, you can attach that. Is it possible, Aditri?
Yes, sir,
Oh,
sure.
okay, so that sources tab is most complex, but without understanding the sources tab, you cannot understand JavaScript. I would say to that extent. So it is very important. And after that, like there is one uh, network tab. Network tab is also very important. So our websites run on the network. Like whenever we go to something.com, any website.com or google.com, our browser sends some HTTP request, and the server from the Google that will give us some HTTP response. So those request response, we can see how it is being sent, how it is being like received by the browser. And by doing that, you will get to learn a lot about HTTP requests and response. And on this also, I have made one video. This, like if you start my course in the beginning only, I have talked about this, that how browser communicates. So how browser communicates to the server, like, and browser. So that network tab is very important. You will get to know headers, what are headers, how to see headers, what is status code. So this is also very important, and you should explore. Like most of the things in DevTools, you can explore and learn by yourself, except sources tab. Sources tab, there should be some guidance because there are a lot of things going on, so it is difficult. And apart from that, there is one lighthouse tab. Like I think it is not present by default. We need to install one extension, or in I think new Chrome browsers, it is coming by default. So in Lighthouse tab, uh, we can see that the performance of our website, and it will suggest how we can improve the performance. It has, like, it will tell what are the best practices you have followed, what is wrong that you have done, what are the things that you need to improve. So these things we can explore in the Lighthouse tab. And like uh, this is all the things that we had to discuss for those who have already learned uh, JavaScript or web development, but they don't know how to use DevTools. So they can get started like by exploring the tabs by themselves, and they can watch my video on sources tab, basically JavaScript debugging. And if you have any more questions, you can ask Aditri.
Yes, sir. So I have a question that how does DevTools assist in debugging the JavaScript code efficiently?
Okay, so for example, if you're creating any website and you will write some JavaScript into it, and let's say there is some error. So the error will come inside the console. But along with the error, there will be one small line mentioned that from which file that error is coming and on which line number that error is coming. If you click on that, it will take you to the sources tab, and it will highlight that line number from which the error is coming. And what you can do is you can put a breakpoint on that line itself and refresh the browser. And this time, if you put a breakpoint is like on in front of line number. If we click, there will be one blue dot kind of thing that will highlight, and whenever we refresh the browser again, it will stop on that line. It will stop, and we can hover on all variables that are present around those lines and above those lines. Below lines, we cannot hover and check because the code has not been executed below. But above whatever variable we have or functions we have, so we can hover, like we can put our cursor on that variable, and we can see what is the value inside that variable. Once we see what is the value, and like what are all the properties that are present inside that object, let's say if it is an object, and if we are trying to access some property which is not available on that object, and let's say if we are trying to access some method and which is not available on that object, in that case it will give error. And we can, like, just by hovering on it, we can see like which thing is causing the problem. And like this is how we debug, like how the code is running, how we are expecting it to run, but how it is running actually. So we can pause and understand line by line. Otherwise, the code is executed very fast. We cannot like run everything in our mind that fast. So we have to stop it and check it. Okay.
So what are the most common types of error you can find while doing a work development, web development project?
Okay. So common errors, it is very like common errors. I can like just list down list of errors, but those errors which are common that you will not run into, always some new kind of error will come for you. So like if you have asked that what are common errors, so most common errors will be like you are trying to access some variable without assigning something into it. So if we use let or const, we will get such kind of error. And there is one more error, that cannot access this property of undefined. Like if there is some variable which is undefined, and we are trying to get some like we are trying to access some property. So if you get such a kind of error, which means your variable or your object is undefined and you are trying to access some property, and like this is not a function. This means whenever I say this means some variable name is not a function. So whenever you try to call something and like it is not a function, then you will get this kind of error. And like that, there are countless number of errors that can come, and we cannot remember all kind of error, and we don't need to remember. We will face like all those common errors we will face. And the error, like the best way to solve any error is to read the error message properly. If you read the error message properly, you will get a lot of hints that how that error can be solved. This is one thing. And another thing is just like if you are not able to understand that what is that error just by reading the error message, you can just copy that error message and paste it onto the Google or onto ChatGPT. First, try to do it on Google, and most probably you will get answer on Stack Overflow. So if you just do this step, you don't need to write anything. Just copy and paste that message onto the Google. You will get the answer at what is causing that problem. So, like this is how we solve the error. And like if you have any question, you can ask, or I will move to the last part. Okay.
Or you can continue, sir. I'll
Okay.
ask my questions after.
Okay. So now this part is for those people who are already working, let's say any person who is already working in the industry, they will know how to use DevTools. Without it, they cannot work. And so this segment is focused on those people who are already working into the industry or already know how DevTools are working, how to use DevTools. So there are some common things that I would like to highlight is uh, that in JavaScript, we have objects. Something is called as objects. And objects are stored by address. Object and arrays both are stored by address. And those who know already JavaScript and working, they will know that these things are stored by address. But we have never seen the address in DevTools. Like nobody shows how that address looks like. Is it like an email address or Instagram address or something? So how does it look like? So in no course or nowhere in the internet, you will find that how that address looks like. So if you want to know how that address looks like, I can tell you that you can find in a memory tab. So there is a memory tab like sources tab and elements tab. There is one memory tab. You can go to memory tab and explore. You will find the address of every variable, and it looks like at symbol, like Instagram address we provide at something.com or at procoder. Like .com is not there in Instagram, but at something. So in the same way, a variable address is present like in DevTools. So at, and then there will be some number instead of letters. It is number at 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. So if you are able to explore by yourself in the memory tab, it is very difficult to explore. If you don't know it, it can take a day, one day or 2 day of time to explore because it is not present directly. You'll have to dig into it and find it. So if you don't know, then I have already made one video. If you just search on YouTube that how to see variable address in JavaScript, you will get my video because on internet there is no other video apart from my video. So you can search that. And other thing, like this is one tip that we can see variable address in JavaScript for experienced people. And the other thing is like as we work on React or TypeScript, and we are able to debug those React JSX files or TypeScript TSX files or TS files. But we have learned that this JSX file or TS file does not run on browser. But if we put a console log in DevTools, it tells that from this TypeScript file or from this JSX file, this console log is coming. And also, if we click on that, it takes us to the sources tab and shows all the lines. So how our browser is able to run that TS file or JSX file? Like, but we are told like these files does not run in browser, right? So like this is the question you have to find out. So like uh, actually those files does not run really. Those files are compiled into some JavaScript file, and after that it runs. But in DevTools, we are able to see our TypeScript and JavaScript file because of something called source maps. So you can explore how source maps work, and source maps allow us to debug our advanced application. Like if our application is only CSS and JavaScript, then there is no need of source maps. But when we make complex apps, when we make big apps using React or TypeScript, then those files does not run directly into our browser. But we cannot debug the compiled code, right? Whenever we write some TypeScript code, it is compiled to some old JavaScript code. So source maps provide us a way to debug that JavaScript code in like debug that TypeScript and JSX code and any other file. Like in case of CSS, there is something called SCSS. So we can debug SCSS code because of this source maps. So I have made one video on source maps also. You can search that. This is part of our React series. In the React series, you will find that source maps. So source maps like allow us to debug our advanced apps, complex apps. So that is it. And if you want to learn more about DevTools, the only way is to explore. Just go to DevTools, try to explore, try to click on every tab, every button, what this button is doing, what that is button is doing. This is how I learned. This is how you can learn. And some resources that I have provided you can go through those resources and learn more about DevTools. That's all I had to say about DevTools, Aditri. If you have any question, you can ask.
Yeah. My question is, what would be the best way to use DevTools in a collaborative development environment, which could enhance the code quality?
Yeah, like collaborative development environment. What do you mean by that? Can you like?
If you are like basically if you're in a classroom or you're in a workplace, what would be
Okay,
the best way to use it?
okay. So, like, if you are in a classroom, and let's say if you are a teacher, if you are teaching, let's say someone is teaching. So, even if you are not a teacher, you are teaching to your junior, you are explaining some concept. So, first, before teaching, there is a preparation that how I will teach it, how I will explain it. So, first, try to understand that concept with the help of DevTools, like how you can see everything inside DevTools. Is it possible to see everything in DevTools? So, for example, I will give you one example. When I had to teach variable address, like objects are stored by address, and normal like non primitive variables are stored by value. When I had to teach this, I did not know that it is possible to see variable address because I was not taught in any course. So I gave it 1 day, 2 day to just explore, even if it is possible to see that. So if you are going to teach something, make sure, let's say if you are going to teach a scope, what is a scope? What is local scope? What is global scope? We are taught, like in every programming language, there is something called a scope. So is it possible to see that in DevTools? And most probably 80 to 90% of the things are possible to see if you are going to teach call stack. Okay, so is it possible? Yeah, it is possible. If it is possible, then use it, like just show it to the student. And if you are explaining to your colleague in your workplace, you can just use it to show something. If you show something to someone, like if you show some scope that this is a scope, this is called stack. Once you show it, there is no way that they can forget it, right? So this is how you can use it in workplace, and you can use it while teaching.
So my last question to you would be, how does DevTools support coders and developers in improving the website accessibility?
Okay, accessibility. So I have not talked about accessibility tab. There is one accessibility tab also dedicated to it. So if you want to make accessible website, you can explore accessibility tab. It will like it has different rendering styles, I would say. Like if someone has color blindness, how the website will look to them. So we can enable that disease name is mentioned inside DevTools. That if some person has that disease, how that person is going to see our website. Like some people can see only specific colors, so we can like enable that disease, that how that person is going to see. And the website will be rendered in that format, that how that person is going to see the website. And also there is something called contrast. Like it is very important whenever we write some text on our website, whenever we add some text, it is very important to add some, like that there are different levels of contrast. There are some ratings, AA and AAA. So it should pass as at least AA, that standard W3 standard is there. And if you hover on, like if you inspect any element on the DevTools, you will see that color contrast rating. Is it AA or AAA? How much, like it is in point, like 6 point something, 7 point something, 2 point something. So generally it should be above 4. Okay, so we can see that in our DevTools, and there is a dedicated accessibility tab. You can explore that, and you can watch some videos. I have not made any video on accessibility, so you can, like, there are a lot of videos on YouTube. You can just explore and learn it. So this is how we can make accessible.
Thank you, sir. So, as we wrap up, are there any final thoughts or advice for our listeners?
Okay, so I would say if you're coming into this field, or if you're already into this field, you will have to keep learning constantly. It is not like once you learned, you got job. If you don't learn, you will get laid off. Okay, so it is very important to keep learning and upskilling yourself. AI is coming. Try to learn that AI tool also in your workflow. And DevTools is very important. If you are good at DevTools, you will, like, you will just see the error, and you will see that, you will say that this is the problem. Like this is how I like I find error. Like in my workplace, if someone comes with some error that this is this, hey Anurag, this error is coming, I will just see at the error, not even the code, and I will say that this error is coming because I'm very good at DevTools. So, like, just keep exploring, keep learning, and that's it. That's what I will have to say. And you can check out my channel. You will find very good front end content, very in depth. 148 hours of front end course. Okay, so that's all. That's all. Like, that's it.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay.
So, wise words indeed, sir. Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable insights with us today. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, Technophile signing off. Stay curious, stay innovative, and keep unleashing the power of DevTools.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
sir. Thank you,
Technophiles.
sir. Have a
Okay.
good
Thank
day,
you.
sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Have a good day.
Bye.